Hello and welcome in the fourth installment of Slovenia X and Slovenia X Airports series. After yesterday's successful flight from Lesce to Kamnik and a successful landing here, demanding but quite successful landing at a short landing strip here in Kamnik, we took a good night's sleep and we parked our Comanche in this tent hangar. And so we came up here early in the morning. It was a bit foggy and decided to postpone the flight till 12 o'clock, 12:30 I believe. And we are heading out into a sunny day, scattered clouds, but very good visibility, which will be to our advantage on our scenic flight today over the capital of Slovenia. So we will fly past Ljubljana. We'll probably look around and make a couple of circles over Ljubljana, and I will, as yesterday, explain you how we made the scenery and also what there is to see and what this scenery incorporates in terms of landmarks, important buildings. So some sightseeing is unavoidable. I promise that today we'll keep it shorter than yesterday's, where I got carried away in this mountainous region that I'm quite familiar with, and I really wanted to introduce it to you properly, which took us a long time to do. But today we are headed towards Ljubljana, and then we will land at another very small airstrip. Probably we'll see a couple of airstrips from the air that are positioned either in Ljubljana or in the vicinity of Ljubljana, and then we'll land at one that is beneath another prominent mountain on the south side of Ljubljana, which is called Krim, and the airstrip is called Podpeč airstrip or Podpeč airfield. Let me start up the plane and I'll catch you later when the plane is up and running. Okay, our plane is up and running and ready to go. I've learned some lessons on the last flight regarding the audio recording, where I haven't changed the settings a bit and they still got some annoying echo into the mix, so I managed to get rid of that. And the other lesson learned is that I need to switch my headphones on in this A2A Comanche, no matter that I don't hear the engine very strongly at the moment when recording, and not having this plugged in, it gets annoyingly loud, and me speaking softly or not loud enough, then I'm very hard to be overheard over the engine noise. Before we head out, I wanted to show you and point out the train that is there at the station. So this is a typical train that would drive and bring commuters from Kamnik to Ljubljana, where the majority of them, or at least a large number of them, usually work. So this is one of the most friendliest transportation means in terms of sustainability. It's a tram-like train which drives past there, and behind it a typical church, for example in Slovenia, and a couple of others. There is a hill there with the church as well. So these trains are static. There on a couple of stations or the most significant points where you could expect it. So the colors are right, the shape is right, and you would find such train going back and forward. It's something that the Germans called a Nebenbahn, which means it's like more like not a main line. So it ends in Kamnik. and let's head out. As I've explained yesterday, the strip operates only in a favorable wind conditions, and the way in is also the way out, and today I've learned that this is due to the power lines going to the east of the runway, which make it impossible, or yeah, at least legally impossible to take off in that direction. In terms of the Slovenia X Airports, this is quite well simulated with the tree that stands right in the center of the runway heading, and it's quite difficult, if not impossible, to clear it with enough margin to spare. So we will be anyhow we are forced to take this pad out. Let's get our plane ready. So mixtures full, props full, mixtures rich. We'll give it 2 notches of flaps in order for our let's leave it at 1 notch, and it's not so dramatic, but we'll need to clear that end of the runway quite quickly, and this is more or less it. We'll turn the pump on and stand on the brakes for a while, get full power, leave them, and here we go. So as soon as we hit this near the 70 mark, we will take off. She doesn't like particularly if you rush him into the air, and so it struggled a bit. So we'll do something that is usually not done, at least not if you are not talking to an airport in the vicinity, which is Ljubljana Airport. We will head out over there, and so you can see the runway of Ljubljana Airport on the right. We'll head out to this one of the reporting points for VFR flying, and which is commonly in use as well. There are 2 or 3 points that you would usually come across: Sierra 2, Sierra 3. And when landing in, we are just over. We are just over this industrial zone that is in the path of ELS landing towards Ljubljana Airport. Here goes the ELS path. So this would be usually off limits to GA traffic at this height, because the airliners are coming in here, and it's one of the good orienteering points. It's also good if you for traffic pattern, so this is where you actually make your turn to the final from base. So you can look around. We are headed to, so this is the highway going to Austria and Italy from where we came last time, and this is the toll station down below, which is now has been torn down half a year ago or perhaps a year ago, but still features in the scenery, and will probably for some time. It's also a very good orienteering point. Some farms here, and we are nearing Sava River there, it's again a dam, a dam above there. You can see the power plant here, and there is another power plant just behind this corner. This is called Jezero Zbilje, and here is a ruin of a castle down below us, and so it's again a nice little cozy, let's say, village where you can come near to the lake, this artificial lake, and enjoy a good ice cream. So here we have smokestacks. You will encounter a couple of them. This is the town called Medvode, and we are nearing Ljubljana from this northern side, and I'll explain on the way. So we are perhaps a bit high. I'll reduce the speed a bit, and we'll just stay lower. Perhaps we'll make a high pass, and then we'll lose some altitude. This is Mount Šmarna Gora. You will hear a lot about the hill. Slovenes, and especially inhabitants of Ljubljana, speak a lot about it. It's quite a popular hike. There are two peaks. So this is Šmarna Gora with the church and a former monastery, if I believe so, but a good, sorry for this, reduced it too much. So this is the also a restaurant there, and this is Grmada. It's less frequented, and in between there is a saddle, and you come usually up this side and then go there to have a beer or a coffee or a pretzel. So this is the kind of stuff you would usually have there. Towards the right there is we have a green belt around Ljubljana, lots of greenery there, and a tunnel going through this hill and highway going towards Primorska region. And now we are nearing the center of Ljubljana from the north. So you can see that lots of greenery penetrates deep into the city, and the city developed along 5 major roads that intersect practically in the city center or in the vicinity of city center, and again describing Slovenia as green and Ljubljana as a green capital wouldn't miss the mark. Right there is a hippodrome for horses, and then here you can see allotments. Was also a very typical site, now in decline, and this is all modeled in, all based again on the GIS data, with small custom autogen houses and so on. And right there on the left there is a new stadium, National Stadium, football stadium. This is the one that you see, and then covered hall, basketball court, and let's say a venue for different concerts. Here on the left, a financial center with our World Trade Center and Smelt, and here are I think that they are the highest high-rises, residential high-rises in Ljubljana. Very distinguishing shape. And here on the right we have a castle. That's a typical site in Ljubljana. It's orienteering point. And down below, let's switch to our copilot. So down below here is a main train station, and some new high-rise buildings. And the tallest building in Ljubljana at the moment is Intercontinental Hotel. Yeah, I had to think twice. And this, just below the castle, is the old part of the city, the medieval Ljubljana, the old Ljubljana, and also this medieval town jumped the river a bit, and the river is called Ljubljanica, after which Ljubljana is also named. Again, two distinguishing landmarks is this is the Square of the Republic with the Parliament here, a famous Zvezda Park, Kongresni Trg, to name just a few places in Ljubljana. A lot of these special buildings, especially high buildings, like I will say like hotels, offices, Nebotičnik, for example, Metalka, and all these important high buildings that you would be able to orient yourself on and with. So here it's a sports center. The older sports center is again a hockey covered hall, and then here football stadiums. It's more like for training. It's called Jacques in Visegrad, and then we have here one of the power plants. So this is one with again with a big smokestack, and there in the distance you will see another one. So here's another one in Moste. To not be too boring, let's see what the views will show us. So Sava River is going north of the Ljubljana, and this is practically the border, not the statistical, but at least the border of the city that comes to mind. On the other part there is a town, or a part of town called Črnuče. Some consider Ljubljana and some don't. The biggest cemetery of Ljubljana is called Žale, and here also a shopping district called BTC. A former warehouse is now very popular for shopping and let's say these things. The new settlement, so this is Polje, and then a Rangier station, I don't know how it's called. It's like the station where they organized not the public transport by train, but the cargo transport of trains. And this leads then to Zagreb, to Croatia, to Hungary, and to eastern part of Slovenia. Here you can see also the transformers and all these stations, all the infrastructure is modeled in, as well as again the highway, that's the eastern part of the highway, and the Sava River flows then here and goes into the deep valley, which we'll probably export in some of the next installments. So turning now, this is a tunnel called Golovec, and the hill here, Golovec, so one of the hills incorporated in the Ljubljana, and coming over this hill there is another shopping zone, Rudnik industrial shopping zone, it's a commercial zone, and here on the left Ljubljansko Barje, where we are going to land, and Krim as the most prominent mountain. It's quite significant, and you can see it from the above. So this is a landfill site. A lot of it is already reconstructed and greened in a way that it's like more eco-friendly and it's not used as landfill anymore. Ljubljana recently was featuring in some newspapers as a town in Europe or city that recycles a lot of its waste, and was shown as an exemplary member of the European Union. So here the castle, big hill, especially when you are walking around Ljubljana. Here, before I forget, the three bridges, Tromostovje, with the Franciscan church, and this castle always towering above the city, and always as a high point that you can recognize and you know where you are. Park Tivoli, also a famous and also popular place for here's a big children's playground, a pond, a castle, and something that's called Schweizeria, which is like a Swiss house for resident artists, and a restaurant. This is very popular for taking a walk and so on. Then this part of the hill is called Rožnik. Beneath Rožnik we have a zoo, and so this is again a hill, and there are a couple of ski jumps in there as well, and this is a new district for universities where universities are going out of the city, some of them forming a new campus. So all these buildings here, some of them hand placed, some of them generated, do look and do signify important, or at least larger buildings and something that's distinguished. So you could see that these blocks of houses here do not look exactly as in real life, but they are positioned as so, and their height is the correct one. It was quite a challenge to model this city, especially because the flight simulator FSX and 3D does not has this autogen specific that say, okay, you can have one-story houses generated, and then the next category is from 2 to 5. And in Ljubljana, everything happens from 2 to 5 mostly. So you have lots of these individual houses, residential, and then blocks of houses that are 5 stories in high, lots of them, and they're a bit longer and so on. So all these blocks of houses were modeled as custom autogen, and they are then inserted as library objects in places where the blocks of houses should be. Otherwise you wouldn't distinguish, the FSX wouldn't distinguish between 1 and 5 stories, so it would randomly put some buildings in and not look convincing. So this jumping of scales between individual houses and then neighboring big houses is something that's quite characteristic, not just in Ljubljana but also in Slovenia. So the power plant I was talking about, and Štepansko naselje here with its high-rise buildings. So these are new settlements in Ljubljana, were done in the 70s and 80s, some also earlier, and this was a Ljubljana in a very short period of time. So now I need some flying to do. Not to overspeed it. Okay, we are back in the cockpit. And we are still exploring Ljubljana, and we'll do some more, perhaps another turn, and then we'll be heading to our landing site, which is Podpeč, in the vicinity of that mountain that I've shown you earlier. Quite high and quite fast, so I'm reducing the throttle, and this is the sound, the buzzer that warns you that you don't have the undercarriage out, but you reduced the throttle to beyond some limit when it buzzes. All these buildings are placed correctly according to the GIS data and some hand placing, and it's quite nice. Again, there are allotments you see here, small gardens. So Perhaps another thing that I could explain at this example is that Ljubljana has, and all the bigger cities in Slovenia have a photoreal underlay, so you can see that here the photoreal then goes into the land class based scenery, but all here within you can see the border in fact, but I tried really hard to fine-tune the colors and to color match every transitions and do transitions in a way that they do not stand out too obviously. Of course, it's unavoidable that they will show, but so if you'd look at these underlays, you would see that the houses line up more or less, and the roads line up, and so everything is positioned correctly, which holds true for every building in Slovenia. But in some cases you will see houses standing on the, let's say, the fields and the meadows, because the GIS data do not recognize that as a settlement, so the texture is not that for the settlement, or it's some generic texture. But still, I wanted to have this feeling of lots of settlements, and for me this is more important, seeing the house, than actually seeing the courtyard of the house actually, or the garden of the house. So it's more easily imaginable that the house stands in the green on the grass, or it has a very small patch of pavement around it, than it would be having no houses there at all. So it would break, I think, the immersion, at least for me. So here is Mount Krim, a prominent feature in the south. So this is marshland, what we are flying above, and if I change something, I would do that here. Had some special land class for this particular settlement patterns and field patterns here at Barje, but unfortunately I ran out of land classes, so the FSX has a limited number of land classes, and I had to leave some as they were, like forests and so on, and so I operated with a very tiny amount, and it's also regionally defined, so you cannot use sunglasses from Africa and sunglasses from Northern America. It's just not the way the architecture of the sim works. So this will come with another version, an upgraded version of Slovenia, if we can say so. I'm a very strong proponent of land class based scenery with photoreal inserts, but I've seen that the public would like to see, and the customers would like to have photoreal Slovenia as a complete photoreal coverage, which will happen in near future. It's in the works, and there at least these particularities about the landscape will come into play very strongly, because we will be flying over a very detailed LOD 15 picture, so to speak, of the Slovenia below, so Slovenia down as a photoreal imagery. So there, I will point out, is one of these small airstrips in Ljubljana, near Ljubljana actually. It's in the part of the town called Podpeč, not Podpeč, sorry, Brezovica. It's called airfield Brezovica. It has only one very tiny hangar. It's more like a shed, storage shed, and it's a grassy strip, not lots of markings there. We have overflown but not noticed one of the airstrips there in the eastern part, and I was not able to point it out, but still we were there. So we will be using our altitude a bit, and we will position ourselves to land in Podpeč, airfield Podpeč. And I was saying that this is a marshland. It's here is a Ljubljanica river flowing and overflowing, and this whole terrain is very soft, very hard to build on. You need special construction principles to actually build here. This is called Šmarna. It's a very elongated type of a village along the road, and so that's why this is not built up as you would expect it. It's also not very good for growing vegetables and fruits and so on. So it's not, these are not the fields as such, and usually are more like meadows, pastures, and the grass was good mostly only for the cattle and horses. So we position now and look around to orient ourselves, and we are looking for the airfield. So here is a small lake, and the airfield is there below this hill. There is a line of trees that's recognizable, and there is a landing site there. So we'll make a left pattern. Ljubljana is about 360 meters above sea level, so this is around 1,000 feet. So we need to use some altitude. So sorry for the beeps. When descending, we can have a look around. So that's where we are landing, here. I think we are low enough. We have lost altitude quite quickly. It's again one of the very tiny airstrips, which will be a challenge to land. So in terms of frame rates, it needs to be said that due to a very large amount of autogen, you will almost surely have a drop in frames when you are around and near Ljubljana, especially in a combination with the airport of Ljubljana, which lies in the vicinity. So this is unavoidable if you want to have this, the rest of Slovenia look very good, like it does now. You will need then to actually either lower your settings for this region, or sort of brand the way and actually just had to accept the lower frame rates. So we'll do a, sorry for this, when this comes out of range it jumps. I'll talk too much on the approaches, so this should be like a clean cockpit. It's not. What I wanted to say, that we'll make a long that I prefer to make a longer finals than this, because we really need to be again slow to land on this runway, which is quite then it also has trees in the way, and I believe we are that fast, so we'll see how we manage. and there is a tree in the way and will not be landing. So yeah, we are fast and will float. So we'll make a touchdown and we'll make a go round. This was your first impression of the airfield. So now we'll make a proper one. So we'll raise the flaps, and again you can see a hay rack there. We have the hills on the right. Again, a quite detailed scenery. So let's repeat this exercise. So let's see. Yeah, better this time. Make a turn to align ourselves again. We are set for the landing. We'll have a bit longer approach. There's a quarry on the right, and seen this stone was used to build Ljubljana. Centuries back in time, so I would not say a medieval or a Roman Ljubljana, but still in between two wars, Ljubljana, and perhaps even before that. So now our speed is good. Trimming the aircraft, and we are losing speed nicely. So we'll have to go lower. This looks better. Just let it float and then settle down. Came down a bit hard, but still better this than just managed to avoid the trees. So this one is even shorter. So we turned by the end of the cones, and here we are. I will not say today that this is how it's supposed to be done, so it would be preferable to be landing a bit earlier, but again the trees make it very challenging. Perhaps I would need to reduce the speed even more. So I'll turn here around a bit unconventionally, but this is actually a hangar, so here you will see planes parking. So we'll just stop here and turn off the airplane and have a look around. So welcome in Podpeč. There is a very nice representation of hay rack. So this is a double one. You will also find lots of this in Slovenia still, thankfully. And again, a typical small, tiny airstrip with some hangars that should look like themselves. Again, I'm repeating myself a bit. With some default objects and custom trees here lining the river. The river is called Ljubljanica, so this one flows through Ljubljana, and it actually goes in this direction, so we are upstream of Ljubljana. And here this is a picnic place, there is a restaurant, so this parking spot is there, so we can have a look around. We flew along that pad and then came from there and landed here. So here's another hangar. As you can see, some static airplanes and not much more actually. tennis courts, again one of the custom AutoGen I've made, and some default objects, some blocks of houses, and some. So all the textures on the buildings are again custom. So the AutoGen buildings, this is one of them, this is the other one. So all these buildings have their custom textures, and you can see the typical colors of the regions, some wood facades. So the shape of the roof is quite correct, and also the textures on the roofs looks quite right. I hope you have enjoyed today's flight. It went quite smoothly. I talked a lot again, shown you some stuff, but still managed to do it in a more decent time. And next time we'll be heading towards east, and we'll be exploring other small airfields. And so until next time, I wish you goodbye and stay tuned.